just want to know. We just want to know what happened and why our baby didn't come home. Like that's our biggest thing. And we are so grateful to everyone, family, friends, classmates, United Cajun Navy, everybody that's assisted us. We appreciate you. There's not enough thank yous that we could say or give to you, but I just, we just want to know. We want an honest, thorough investigation. That's all we're asking for.
3 p.m., that's the last confirmed moment anyone saw him standing on Horn Island. Since then, this case has only grown more complicated. If you watched our first video, you know the basics. 18-year-old Nolan Xavier Wells disappeared during a 4th of July boat trip with friends to a remote barrier island off the Mississippi coast. 2 days later, his body was found in the water near where he was last seen. What we didn't know then is everything that's happened since. New attorneys, new accusations, a sitting judge forced to speak publicly, and a mother who says her son's phone was wiped clean of every memory from that day. This is what's changed, and what still hasn't been answered. If you're new here, welcome. Consider subscribing, because we're following this case closely, and there's a lot more ahead in this video alone. Let's start with the detail that changed everything. When Nolan's mother, Christine Wonsley, finally got her son's phone back from his friends, she said she and her sister went through it together. He had 2 Snapchat accounts. Both were empty, no photos, no videos, nothing from a holiday that, for most teenagers, would have generated dozens of them. Christine knew her son. She knew how often he documented moments exactly like this one. To her, the empty accounts weren't just unusual. They were a warning sign.
So when we made it home, my sister and I actually went through Nolan's cell phone, particularly Snapchat, because that is so popular with the children. And when we opened it up, there was nothing. There were no saved pictures. There were no snaps from that day. And we did open it before the 24-hour expiration. So we found that very concerning, only because anyone who's ever been around Nolan will tell you at social gatherings, he's taking videos, he's taking pictures, he's even come up to me when I'm getting ready to go to bed, hey Ma, come on, take a picture of me. Like that was Nolan. So that's why we feel that things may have been deleted, was because of the fact that there was nothing in either one of his accounts.
A spokesperson for Snapchat's parent company responded with a general statement of condolences, saying the company stood ready to work with law enforcement, but they did not confirm whether anything had actually been deleted or by whom. At the same time, a video began circulating online. It was shot from a boat near the island, and it captured what sounds like an argument. A male voice can be heard saying, "Give me my freaking phone. What are you doing?" The family's legal team believes that voice belongs to Nolan.
And then this video of this, you can hear an argument going where Nolan is saying, "Give me my freaking phone. What are you freaking doing?" And so then his phone ends up missing. I don't know any teenagers, Michael Strahan, who says, if you believe their story, I'm gonna stay behind and I'm gonna leave my phone. I mean, no young person leaves their cell phone. And so then there's so many things their parents were telling us about, even why didn't his body wash up with the tide on Sunday? Why would it come on Monday? It's not adding up. And that is the problem when you think about the history of Mississippi.
Investigators have not confirmed the video is authentic, and the sheriff's office has publicly asked the community to stop spreading unverified information. But here's what is confirmed. Investigators are actively asking anyone who was near the northwest tip of Horn Island on July 4th to come forward with footage, specifically footage that might show alleged altercations. That is not a routine request. That's a request for something specific. On July 9th, the family made a decision that changed the scale of this case entirely. They hired Ben Crump, one of the most recognized civil rights attorneys in the country. Crump's involvement meant this was no longer a local story. It was now a national one.
I'm Attorney Ben Crumpet, along with Attorney Lisa Park and Jared Presson and Camila Moore. We have the honor and the privilege of helping to lead an independent investigation on behalf of the family of Nolan Wells. Why do you say we need to be retained to lead an independent investigation? It is because the family has distrust of the Mississippi law enforcement officials giving them a fair investigation where their black son ended up dead after going out on a boat with 3 young white men. The history of Mississippi is something that they don't just read about in books, but it's a lived experience for many black Americans that oftentimes when our children are killed in highly questionable situations, that there is this notion that, oh, it was nothing wrong, no foul play, let's just sweep it under the rug. Well, we refuse to sweep it under the rug. We refuse to just let Nolan Wells' death be in vain.
Nolan Wells was a beloved son, teammate and friend who went out to celebrate the 4th of July and never came home, Crump said in a statement. His family deserves answers. They deserve the truth.
We just want to know. We just want to know what happened and why our baby didn't come home. Like that's our biggest thing.
Crump also revealed that the family wasn't relying on the state's autopsy alone. Nolan's body was flown to Washington, D.C. for an independent examination, paid for, according to Crump, by former NFL quarterback Colin Kaepernick. Separately, filmmaker Tyler Perry offered to cover funeral costs. 2 days later, on July 10th, the family held a press conference in Harlem, New York, alongside Crump and civil rights activist Reverend Al Sharpton. Sharpton framed the case in terms that would be repeated across national headlines within hours. He was one black with 3 young white men who happened to end up with his phone, with his keys, Sharpton said. There's just too many questions that they should not be closing the investigation. That same day, Nolan's parents spoke publicly for the first time in an interview with Good Morning America, and what they said complicated the story even further. They flatly rejected the idea that their son chose to stay behind on the island. That's not his character, his father Elmore Wansley said. When asked directly whether he believed Nolan had been left there, he didn't hesitate. Yes, he said, I don't believe he decided to stay on the island by himself. If this update has you asking questions of your own, drop them in the comments. We read every one, and it genuinely helps guide what we dig into next. There's one more development that added an entirely new layer to this case. One of the friends who had been on that boat turned out to be the son of a sitting judge. Ashley Cole, a chancery judge in the very county investigating Nolan's death, confirmed publicly that her son, Warren, was part of the group. She said he had been interviewed by the Jackson County Sheriff's Department and had cooperated fully. According to her account, the group's boat began taking on water that afternoon due to a problem with the bilge pump, and they returned to the mainland around 4:30 p.m. She said Nolan made the decision to stay behind, planning to return later with a different group of friends. Cole denied that her family had done anything to interfere with the investigation, and she addressed criticism she'd received for temporarily deactivating her Facebook account as online speculation intensified. That account that Nolan chose to stay behind is the exact claim his parents reject, and it still doesn't explain one detail that keeps surfacing in every version of this story. Nolan left the island without his phone and without his keys. Both remained with the friends who got on that boat without him. His parents have asked the obvious question. If Nolan planned to leave later with someone else, why would he leave behind the 2 things he'd need to get home? As of the most recent reporting, no one has been arrested and no charges have been filed. Sheriff John Ledbetter has said directly that nothing in the evidence collected so far indicates foul play was involved in Nolan's death, but he's also been careful to add that the investigation is far from over. That distinction matters. The sheriff isn't saying nothing happened. He's saying that, based on what they've found so far, they don't yet have evidence pointing to a crime. Those are two very different statements, and the space between them is exactly where this case currently sits. The independent autopsy results have not been publicly released, neither have the results of the state's original autopsy. Toxicology testing, which can take weeks, is still pending. Meanwhile, investigators continue asking the public for any footage from the northwest tip of Horn Island on July 4th, a sign that they believe more evidence is still out there. For Nolan's parents, all of this noise circles back to one simple request. "We just want to know," Christine Wonsley said, her voice shaking as she spoke. "We just want to know what happened and why our baby didn't come home. We want it to be an honest, thorough investigation. That's all we're asking for." Right now, that truth is still somewhere between a bilge pump that failed, a phone left behind, a Snapchat account wiped clean, and a video the sheriff still won't confirm. A family is waiting on the other side of it. Nolan Xavier Wells was 18 years old, a son, a teammate, a young man his own mother describes as a light, the kind of person who drew people toward him just by walking into a room. We've told you only what has been confirmed by his family, by investigators, by attorneys speaking on the record. The rest remains unknown, and it deserves to stay that way until real answers come. Do you believe the investigation has asked all the right questions so far? And what single piece of evidence do you think could change this case the most, if it ever surfaces? Let us know in the comments, respectfully. This is a real family, still waiting. If you want more carefully researched updates as this case develops, subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. Rest easy, Nolan.